Jailed Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich was back inside a Russian courtroom today. But let's be clear on this. This isn't a real legal proceeding with an outcome determined by an objective judge, even remotely so. The journalist was arrested back in March on trumped-up allegations of espionage while reporting outside of Moscow. Allegations his employer, the U.S., vehemently deny. And now he's bearing the brunt of a sort of phony Russian legal system in this context, which too often is referred to here in the United States as if it's legitimate. Russian state media shared this video today from what was supposed to be a closed-door hearing showing Gershkovich paraded out in a plexiglass box as his pretrial sentence inside a notorious Russian prison was extended for at least another 2 months. But again, let's be clear. In this kind of case, in Russia, the courts are not separate from Vladimir Putin. This was Putin's court, his decision. No due process going on there. And yet, so many in the media here treating today's court appearance like it was an actual legal proceeding and not part of a Vladimir Putin charade.
Evan Gershkovich will remain in pre-trial detention in Russia until at least January. This now marks the third time his detention has been extended. If convicted, Gershkovich could face up to 20 years in a Russian penal colony.
A court in Moscow a bit earlier today ruling to extend the detention of the Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich.
Now, I refuse to talk about this as if it's a sort of a real court. If convicted, he could face up to 20 years. Journalists here in the United States are using judicial terminology like remain pretrial detention. That obscures the reality that the Wall Street Journal reporter's fate is not in the hands of any righteous attorney or impartial panel of judges. Fortunately, every step in this judicial process will have been preordained by Putin or one of his senior officials, and those decisions will most definitely not be based on any actual guilt or innocence or evidence or testimony. The Russian government clearly wants to milk whatever leverage they can from his detention because at this point he is the most high-profile American political prisoner. He's a bargaining chip. He could end up in a prisoner exchange, as was the case with WNBA star Brittany Griner. But in the meantime, I think we should avoid pretending like there might be a not guilty verdict in any upcoming trial or that he might be released pre-trial. It won't happen. His eventual freedom, I would think, will come hand in hand with something or someone that benefits Vladimir Putin. And the American media would better serve everyone by recognizing that. But joining me now is someone who knows much more about this than I do, Will Pomeranz, director of the Wilson Center's Keenan Institute, an expert on the Russian court system and Russian law. Thank you very much for coming on the program. Appreciate it. All right, as I said, I am not an expert in this area. You are. Am I making this too simplistic?
No, you're not, because in the Russian criminal justice system, if one is indicted and goes to trial, they have a 99% chance of being convicted. Moreover, all the parties in the trial, whether it be the judge or the prosecutors, has an incentive to have the person get convicted. The careers of a judge and a prosecutor depend on the conviction rate of the people who they bring charges against. So this is not going to be a fair trial. This is just going to be a consummation of a show trial that will lead to Mr. Gershovich's conviction.
So why the, quote, extension of the pretrial detention? I mean, why are they sort of trying to lengthen this process? Is that in the hope that they can make some sort of trade before there's a trial?
That's exactly right. And it's pretty standard practice to have an extension if the prosecutors think that they don't have enough evidence to convict. So it's not unknown to have long extensions of pretrial detention in order for the prosecutors to get all their evidence in hand. So this is not an unknown event. This is how the criminal justice system works in Russia.
But the U.S. media, and again, I'm not intending to sort of pile on to them here because they are reporting what happened. But the reality is they're not providing some necessary context very often when using judicial terminology, right, to suggest that somehow, you know, when we compare it to here, well, a pretrial detention, there's been a hearing, et cetera. You know, that's all kind of made up, right?
Well, it's made up, and it's part of the process.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.